Hey guys, what's up? Today we are reaching into the world of graphic design. So in part one of this series about how to code an app, a custom app with no typing of code, just copying and pasting from ChatGPT, we got the code together, but it looks terrible. The output looks awful. And so today we walk through a process of doing graphic design with ChatGPT, getting layouts, color schemes, all of that stuff. You'll see along the way that we have some hiccups and bumps and some embarrassing false start at the beginning. But as we get going, we can produce a pretty impressive app. So come on, let's jump in today and see how far we can get. In our last video, we generated this eyesore of a StoryPoint poker app. The app works great, but it doesn't look that good. So now let's talk about how do we get some good styling on this without having to learn cascading style sheets or other styling tools. So we'll go to ChatGPT and we're going to use just a couple of prompts here. The very first one, we're going to ask it to give us a color scheme. Now, this is really up to you. So I wanted to say, I want a StoryPoint planning poker app. I want it to convey a sense of corporate professionalism. That's the main thing I want because I'm imagining that Scrum Masters and teams will use this. It needs to not be embarrassing, but I want a little hint of a casino flair, maybe a little bit of fun thrown in there. So we'll see what it does for us. And immediately, because we asked for a web app, it knows to give us some hex codes for the colors, and it tells us which are primary, and it explains why. So you can read through this if you agree with it. Now, if you don't agree with it, be more specific in your prompt. That's almost always the answer. If you don't like it, be more specific. Don't just change the prompt, be more specific. So we'll start with this. Now let's go to the next one. Okay, so I'm going to say, all right, now I want to start incorporating my app because so far I'm in a new context here. ChatGPT doesn't really remember the app that we did other than some contextual user memory, but it's not directly in the chat thread. So I'm going to say, given my global.css, and that global.css is in this Visual Studio Code right here, and it's right here, globals.css, and this is all we've got right now. So we'll say, given I should say globals.css, and now I'm specifying I'm using Tailwind CSS. This is very important. So back in the day, we used to say, don't focus on frameworks so much, focus on the logic. Good advice if you're an engineer. But if you're working with an LLM like ChatGPT, you do need to specify frameworks. It really needs to know what framework you're working with so it can give you code that's going to work that you can copy and paste. So if you don't know much about frameworks, that's actually where you should be spending some time, is figuring out, do I want to use Bootstrap or do I want to use Tailwind? You can ask ChatGPT these questions for the trade-offs, all of that stuff. So I love Tailwind. I think I would recommend just using Tailwind if you don't know what to use. And I'm going to give it my current class here, and I'm going to just ask it for the classes necessary to support the color scheme. So again, we're breaking our prompts up into specific chunks that ChatGPT can be successful with. So we'll ask for that, and so it's going to give me this new set. These are going to slightly change the app, I believe, when we put them in. We're going to copy and paste them in, but they won't really change until we update the code itself, because this is creating the CSS classes that will be applied to the code. So now it's telling us what it's doing, and it's obviously remembering what we just set up here. So you want to keep this in the same chat thread to be able to get that continuity. I'm just going to hit copy code. I'm going to go to globals.css, which I currently have open. I'm going to replace the whole thing, and I'm going to save it. Now, you'll note that I did have my thing running down here. And so if you don't have it running from the last video, you can just do npm run dev, and that'll get you going. So it'll automatically restart if it was already running. All right, so let's take a quick look what we got. So we have a sort of corporate-y looking thing. It's not maybe quite as aesthetically pleasing as I would like, but it sure looks a lot better than it did before. We're still got some room here to experiment with layout and to see if we can get some real basic stuff going that's going to make this a little bit better. So we're going to come down here and we're going to ask for it to talk to us about layout. So what I'll do here is I'll say given the two display files from my Next.js app. So I'm reminding it, or I'm telling it that I have a Next.js app. It already knows in the context here that we're working with Tailwind. It already remembers the color scheme that we've used. You'll have to feed it that information if you're in a new chat context. I want to, and this is the key, update the code to employ the new color scheme in an aesthetically pleasing planning poker layout. And we'll say the layout should be user friendly and also mobile friendly. Okay, Tailwind already is mobile friendly, so maybe I don't need to say that, but I'm just going above and beyond. So now I come in here, I'm going to grab the relative path. You don't have to do this, but I find it's helpful for me and helpful for the LLM to kind of just get that context tag here, which says, this is the code that you're seeing is page.tsx. You'll probably get good results without putting this, but I think it's the more you can help it, the better you'll be off. And the next one is this voting section. So remember, we have a voting section here. Come into voting section. Again, I'm going to grab the relative path, put that here, and then I'm going to get all of the code and put that right here. Okay, and so now we'll see if it can give us an updated layout. I'm doing them together because I want it to think about them together. Could do them separately. That'll probably be okay too. So we'll start with the page, and I'm just going to copy it directly. It's pretty rare that it will mess something up and change something that you have on there. Definitely test it, of course, but it's usually okay to just do that. All right, so we'll come back here. Before we try the other one, hey, okay, we're getting a little bit better. We're in the middle of the screen. We can probably do something with checking iPhone 12. Yeah, it looks okay. So that's good. Now let's try the next piece. So now we have this voting section, and you can see what it does is it's just throwing some layout information here. So classes, margins, all of that stuff. And then it's adding some kind of font directions. And it's telling us what it's doing. The story point buttons, the responsiveness is in here. It's using a grid system. So see how it does. Let's try it. Voting section. Come in here. Redo that whole thing. And then check it out. Boom. Okay. So a couple things to note here. The layout's actually pretty good. Let's try this here. So we'll say Sam, I'm going to put a 3. I don't hate that. All right. And I'll say you, put a 13. That doesn't look terrible. Now, here are some things that are pretty obvious is that the yellow on the white background does not look good. This looks a bit like a calculator. I'm not super excited about that. And then it'd be cool if these maybe were a little bit more showy, the votes. And this might be nice in a different font. Okay, so now we've got all this context. We could go with this. I mean, this is not going to blow anyone away with a design award. But let's try to iterate a little bit on this and see how far we can go. So first thing I'm thinking is these buttons, they look like a calculator. I want a horizontal row of circular buttons. So let me do that. And one thing that I find can be helpful sometimes is doing a little bit of image copying and pasting here. So you can take a screenshot, you can move that image over. I'm going to grab my screenshot here that I just took to the desktop. And I'm going to just feed that as some context here. You don't have to do this, but it'll give it a little bit more angles. Now it's got a vision angle as well as kind of the textual angle that it's looking at. So I don't like the current yellow calculator style grid buttons on the white background. Make the buttons a single line of circles. I was going to say make the story point buttons a single line of circles and use blue, we'll say a theme blue for both the outline and the text. Okay. So here we go. Let's see what it does. It's updating, and it's just going to update this whole voting section. This is kind of the beauty of it, is you can just copy and paste the whole thing. It's going to finish this here. We got it. And let's see what happens when we copied it. You save that. Let's go right back over here. Okay, so I love the layout and I like the blue color. The green obviously looks terrible. And this is kind of where you're going to run into some issues. ChatGPT it's only aware of what people have kind of textually said. These colors go well together and that kind of thing. It struggles with realizing that looks terrible. So you have to tell it that. I love the overlay though. That looks good when I hover over it. So let's just take out that green background. And again, I'm just gonna ask it to update the buttons to have a white background, but keep the current hover effect. Everything's still in context, so I don't need to repaste anything here. I haven't made any changes on my own. So I'm going to let it do all this work, and then we'll check it again. Okay, so it generated, copy code, and we'll put it into here. Now, if you're really comfortable with coding, you might go in and just do that yourself. Okay, but I want to show you how to do it without having to know how to code. All right, and now we got something that I'm not embarrassed about anymore with this. Okay, so that looks like something I would accept on an app. Now let's talk a little bit about what else we could do. So the Story Point Poker font is super bland. LLMs are not great at generating logos yet. So what I would suggest is go into Canva and go get a logo. And you can, if you want to, you can say, hey, give me a more pretty font or something a little bit more exciting. You could also say, this yellow on blue is not really working for me. Personally, I don't love this color combination. So all I'm going to try to do now is I'm going to update this votes to be a different blue color. I'm going to ask for this input to become blue as well style. And then I'm going to ask that the votes are represented as non-clickable rounded boxes. Okay, just some stuff to get the UI a little bit better. And then we'll call it good. This is again your first draft. Maybe you need to go and work with a designer to really get it amazing, but you can get pretty good with just going back and forth a little bit. So again, I'm going to grab this thing, and we're going to start with one thing at a time. So we'll say, let's get this input box. I don't want to confuse ChatGPT. It might be able to handle a little bit more, but we'll keep it simple. I'm going to drop this in here, and I'm going to say, make the input box to use the same blue outline as the buttons. Okay. All right, so it is finished, and it's telling us what it did. We'll copy the code, come over here, and again, because we're in Tailwind, this is kind of, I like this about Tailwind. We only have to deal with this one file. So we've updated it. Let's see. Okay, that's looking a little better. It keeps still looks like an input. If I put my name, you again, I'll put that, that still works well, okay? And then the last thing we'll do here is I'm going to ask for, let's see how it works if I ask for 2 changes at once. So I'm going to say, I'm going to give the context of the whole thing just for that whole visual there. And we're going to say, all right, so now update the votes. Make sure I have that header correct. Yeah, votes header to be a blue color and use a, no, that's fine. To be a blue color. I might ask it to do a different font another time, but I don't want it going across files yet, so I'm not going to mess with that. Let's have it to be a blue color and represent the votes themselves as non-clickable rounded boxes with the name of the user, a avatar, we'll call it a generic avatar, and the vote itself. And we'll let it go through. Okay, so it gave us something here that looks decent. Copy that and drop it into voting section. And now we'll come back. See where we're at. Boom. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So we've got votes, they're not clickable. And this icon, obviously, we're just doing a draft here, so we're not connecting to a database where we can show it. But now we've got this stuff in place where if we wanted to, get some friends to work with us on this project, there's some clear wins that could happen here. The votes are way better represented, the numbers, the names. I like it. The thing I'm still not liking is this story point poker. As I said, go to Canva and get a great logo. But this is the process that I go through to work with ChatGPT to get a UI in place. You're not going to get it right at the beginning. It's just not good enough. But trust your instincts. You don't have to be a great graphic designer. Try to rely on things that you've seen. Even consider, going to Apple Store or something like that and taking a screenshot of a piece that you like and then putting that into the prompt and saying, do it something like this. You're going to find that you can actually get pretty good results without turning to graphic designer right away. So in the previous video, we talked about how to update a UI using ChatGPT, back and forth prompts, and getting it kind of to a place where it doesn't look terrible. We talked about how the title here, that it looks awful still. And if I'm making a simple app, I don't really want to pay $300 for a crowdsourced logo or something like that. And I have some friends that are really talented, but I'm a little too embarrassed to ask them to spend, 4 hours trying to make a great logo for me. So for the rough draft, I like to use Canva. So we're going to go up to here to Canva, and we're going to say, I'm going to say poker logo. Now, I will note that a lot of these cool ones cost money. They're premium or pro version. I pay for premium Canva because it is so worth it to me. You can definitely, find some okay ones that aren't pro and go with that. But for now, let's go ahead and let's use a pro one. So I like a lot of these, but I'm going to use this one right here. So let's customize this. And so the first thing you need to do is figure out what you're doing with it. So mainly when I get a logo, I'm really just buying it for the font and maybe some elements. So what I like here, I like this, where luck meets luxury. Let's change that to something like Scrum Forever. And then let's use this O as in the poker. So we'll say P, and then we'll pull this guy over. And actually, I should say planning. So you got to make room for your text back here. Planning. And we can see we're already way too big for what we're working with. So I'm going to click out of here, and drop the size down. You see when I do that, it changes the size here. So there we go. So planning. Okay. And then I'm going to grab here, and I'm going to actually put the P here for poker. And then this guy is going to need to come down in size a little bit. One thing you can do is just kind of size it up to these guys like that. Make sure that you're roughly the same size, and then get on the same line here. And then we'll do the same thing. So I'm hitting duplicate. You can do Command D for a Mac, Control D for Windows, and put this over here. We've got it centered. Should be centered with that line right there. And then we're going to say poker, and bring this over. I'm going to come up here and make that left aligned. Okay. And then you can change the size of everything, but I actually like kind of having a square here. So what I'm going to do is just drop the whole thing down to fit. And bring that in here. All right. Now this poker is way too big. Remember how casino is a lot smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it over to the E, and I'm just going to size it so it's the same size as the E. That looks about right. Okay, and we'll put it right back in here. It's telling us it's 5 between each of those. Still doesn't look too good to me, so I'm going to bring it a little closer to the P. See if I can, how that looks. Again, I'm not a graphic design expert, but you can get decent results with doing stuff like this. Okay, and then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to group it. Right, and then that allows me to put this guy right in the center of the document so that that's center aligned for everything. So they say planning poker, Scrum forever, and now we want to bring this into our story point poker here. Obviously, if we're going to keep this background, this is going to have to be white or some kind of gray. I'm going to just go with a white here. Now, if I change it directly to a white, I can definitely do that, but I won't be able to see how it looks until I put it in. So I'm going to think about changing the background color, and I'll use maybe like a gradient or something like that. No, we'll just, actually, what am I doing? I'm going to use the actual blue color here to see exactly how it looks. So one thing you can do in Chrome, you can go inspect, and then you can see this BG navy here. This is kind of a little trick I use, is I want to get this exact color and I want to use it in hexadecimal, which I can click this change color format up here and change it to hex, and I can copy this, and I can come back in here and I can search for that color, and then I get the exact background that I want, which is really nice. Okay, so that's good. Now this planning poker here, we're going to change the text to be white. Actually, change the text to be white. And you kind of have to do this thing one at a time here, because they're grouped, but you can't change them all together. And then we have this, I'm going to ungroup this whole thing. I want to click this guy. So he's green right now. See if we can perhaps zoom in a little bit. All right, so this guy, though, we want to flip the white and the green. So we have a piece there, and then the white piece, that actually doesn't look terrible because they're just alternating. Let's come to this one, and we'll change this guy. This guy needs to be, actually, this guy can be blue too. That doesn't look bad. All right. And then this Scrum Forever can go to white. Okay. And we have, it's not a great logo. It'd be really nice if there was a little border around this, perhaps. Maybe I could do that. Let's just add a little circle here. And let's see if I can This is showing you the extent of my graphic design skills here. So we'll see if we can do this. We'll make it white. And then we'll come in here and put this guy right on top here. Right. And then we want to be just a little tiny bit bigger. And then you're going to go to position and you're going to go backward. If you go all the way back, you're going to lose it. All right, perfect. So you see how we've got a little border added there? So it just looks a little bit sharper. And now we have Planning Poker, Scrum Forever. Now we can take this piece and we can put it into our app. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to share this from Canva. Now, before you do that, you got to get rid of the background. This is something in Canva. I wish they would fix this. Delete. We'll just do delete background. And what that does, you see our stuff is still there. You just can't see it. Okay. Which is too bad for previews and stuff. So I'm going to undo this after I'm done here, but I'm going to share it out and we're going to download it. Now you want PNG for transparencies like this, and we'll use 500 by 500 is, gonna be a little bit, let's see if that's gonna be about the right size. So what you can do if you wanna see how big you are right now, you can inspect this, go to computed, and you can see the current text right here, this H1. Let me see if this H1 right here is only 287. So 500 by 500 is realistic. It would also be good to change the name so you can find it later when you search. So we'll say Planning Poker App Logo, and that'll give us the file name too. So come down here, hit download. We're using PNG and download it. Okay, so that's going to go down to your downloads. And now what I would like to do is I open up the folder, somewhere like here. And then I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. And then I've got this public thing here where all the logos are found. This is one of those things every framework uses has a slightly different way of putting logos in for the template. So I happen to know that. You could ask ChatGPT where to put it. And then I'm going to grab this and I'm going to just kind of drop it right in here. Now, I just realized I made a mistake, so it's not bad to explain this, is I forgot to make it a transparent background. So let me show you how to do that. So we want to say, we download, we want a transparent background. Now, you actually have to be premium in Canva for this. So if you're not premium and you were doing something like this, just use the same color that we showed you how to go in there and get that color. And it'll probably blend just fine. It might look a little bit weird on certain screen resolutions. Okay, so I've got this thing now in downloads. Got the better one here. You can see how it's transparent. I don't know if that's showing up very clearly for you. If I zoom it around, you can see that it does have the white right there. So what I'm going to do is now we're going to take this and we're going to put it into your public folder. So I'm going to delete this guy because I made a mistake there. Trash. Pull my Finder up again and we'll do the correct logo. Okay, so now it's in there. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to leave this sort of square thing. It might be places where I don't want to do that and I want to crop it down, and I can do that in Canva. Or maybe I want to control the spacing some other way. For this demo, I'm just going to leave it here as a square. And then I'm going to rename it because usually when you're delivering images, it's a good idea to keep them lowercase with hyphens. So I'm just going to call it Planning Poker App Logo. Okay, so I've renamed that. And then I'm going to do that special thing here where we go copy relative path. And we're going to come back into ChatGPT. And we're going to say, All right, I have, and this is the important part, I have to say the framework so it knows how to do it. I have an image in Next.js that is located at the path, this, okay? And then I say, update the following file. We're going to go back in here. And this logo is right here. We're trying to update this piece right here. So we're going to go Control A, Control C, update the following file to use the logo instead of the H1 element that reads story point poker. Okay, and then I'm going to paste that in there. And then let's see if it can do it on first try. Okay. And this is the cool thing. ChatGPT is smart enough to do this. You notice that the logo is located at public slash. It did not put that public in there because in Next.js, public is automatically available. That's the one that gets served at that root location. So I'm going to copy code. I didn't have to change anything. Come in here, paste, we save, and we see how we're looking. Okay, so it came in, looks okay, but it's way too small. Okay, so let's just see really quick, what would it take to get this up in size? It's only 160 by 160. And this is one of the things where having some skills around like this browser, the debugger tools here, the Chrome developer tools, can be really helpful. If you're not sure how to use that, the easiest way is to do a right click or a two-finger click on Mac, and then say inspect, and that'll pull up the HTML. And so you can basically see, hey, it's 500 by 500, but something's crushing it. And what is crushing it? And it looks like there's something to do with maybe the height. Oh, it looks like the width 40 is the problem. So width 40, and this is where you could experiment here without actually changing any code. So you can go to styles here, and we could say, let's take off width 40. Boom. Okay, that looks way better. Okay, but now we're running into it's super, super tall. Okay, so we're going to go in and we're going to take off the width 40 first. And we could just take this out completely, but let's just demonstrate how to keep doing this without any code. I copied and pasted that, but since I haven't made any changes, I can say I want the width to at least be the size of the content in the voting section. Let's see if it can figure out what I mean by that. It might not be able to. Okay, so it's using a min width full. Let's see if that can handle it for us. Okay, so we're going to update that, save that, come back here. All right, so we're going to, I'm going to refresh just to prove that that worked and it didn't just update it. Okay, so that is not terrible, but you know, it's like, I would feel a little weird maybe coming in here and this kind of looks like a ChatGPT interface, so maybe it's okay. I might say, hey, once somebody starts voting, you know, like move this up to the top like ChatGPT does or something like that. So you can go into Canva here and you can change the background size and everything if you want to do that and really kind of clean it up a little bit. But this is a pretty turnkey way to go from a horrible looking app to a not horrible looking app that you can get out there to the market. You can start getting feedback on, and nobody's going, oh, it looks terrible. People are able to see that there's some design that went into this. So I hope that's helpful as you start this no code journey of making your own apps.